Welcome to TCBCast, an unofficial Elvis Presley fan podcast. I'm Justin Gosman.
And I'm Gurdip.
Gurdip, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. Much better, more relaxed than last week.
Well, that's an improvement.
Less stuff to do, more into the rhythm of life after spring break.
Great.
But yeah, I'm doing well. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. Things have been going pretty well. I was sharing with you this morning that our episode, for our listeners, it will be last week's episode, but for us it was this week. It came out on Tuesday the 9th. Appears to be our highest single day downloads in our show's run.
Wonder what caused that.
I'm not sure, but I am definitely grateful.
Yeah, it's great.
To anyone out there that's listening. And so if you are just now tuning into TCBcast, this is your second or third episode. Welcome. And joining us, thank you for joining us on this crazy ride as we explore the music and legacy of Elvis Presley and some of his influences, which is what we're doing today.
Let's see how long and how far this ride can take us.
Right, exactly. Well, I know we've got a bunch of movies still to get through, and a bunch of sessions to get through, and a bunch of miscellaneous content related to Elvis. So,
you would think that delving into just one artist who's no longer here would be limiting.
Right. And
but
it
it's
seems
not really.
He's the artist that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Weren't you just saying, comparing it to some other artist? Engelbert Humperdinck?
Yeah, you and I were joking. We were like, man, if we were doing the Engelbert Humperdinck podcast, it'd be we'd have some slow news weeks. But even this week, we have some news.
Yes. What do we have?
What did you have, Elvis news-wise?
What do I have? The Fun in Acapulco sessions. I got the new 3-disc FTD.
Yeah.
I didn't have much chance to listen to it, just a few things. But yeah, it seems good. I mean, it can get kind of tiresome listening to the same track over and over because it is complete sessions. But still, it's interesting. Some of the stuff that we've never heard, or I've never heard, maybe other people have. Yeah. I'm sure there's been bootlegs out previously, but this is the official one.
Yep.
And the mastering's really good. It sounds excellent. You haven't picked it up yet, have you?
Well, it's on the way.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe we'll have to sit down and review it, and or at least pick out some parts that we find
kind of hard
notable.
to review because it's 8-9 tracks of Bossa Nova Beauty, and you're like, yep, this was slightly different than the last.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I figured out, remember this was always something I brought up occasionally where the released version of Mexico seems odd because there's these gaps where the kid's supposed to sing.
Yeah.
And the released version has those weird gaps, even though in the film the kids, they're singing back and forth.
They've got muchas, muchachas, amigos, Latin features, never saw such adorable creatures. Lots to do, the night's here. We live it up and love it up, amigo. Life begins when you're in Mexico.
There's a few takes of Elvis actually doing the whole song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can check it out on this new 3-disc set.
That's cool.
But I think it was out earlier. I think it's the first 6 takes are him doing it alone.
Yeah.
And 6 was the master. Anything after that, it was him doing the whole song. And take 7, I think, was the alternate master of that.
They've got muchas, muchachas, amigos, senoritas, Latin features, never saw such adorable creatures. It's so nice here, oh what sights here, lots to do, the night's here. Live it up and love it up, amigo. Life begins when you're in Mexico.
What they did was, the reason he sang the whole song after was the kid was going to come in, I think his name is Larry something, and sing his part, and then they would use that in the film. Well, when he came to sing, his voice, I guess, wasn't that great. He was off pitch quite a bit, and you could actually hear it in the film. I mean, he doesn't sound that great. So they decided not to release his vocals, so they just released the one with just Elvis. Now, why they didn't release the one with Elvis singing the whole part?
All the
that I don't
lyrics.
know. But they went with, the master that's just...
Well, that's kind of cool to finally have that available.
I know. That always was like bothering me. I'm like, why?
Well, now it's out there. Now you can actually hear Elvis singing the other lyrics. Because he doesn't actually ever perform those in the movie either. Those are sung by the kid.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we'll definitely have to give our impressions on it once we get a chance to really dig into it.
And if anyone out there has picked it up, what do you think?
Yeah, let us know. This is the second of the complete sessions.
Viva Las Vegas was first.
Yep.
What are you hoping for in the future? Any other complete sessions you want to hear?
That's tough. Are we limiting
Hawaii? I don't know.
Are we limiting just to movies? Because it seems like that's what they're doing now. But
yeah, well, Blue Hawaii's had a 2-disc, I think, already.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
So I don't know.
And GI Blues and Jailhouse Rock have had multi-volume sets.
Girl
as well.
Happy? I think it's only one, maybe.
Yeah, Girl Happy could be one that could get an expansion, depending on what's available out there. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we've got that. What else? There was a commercial you sent me.
Oh, what was that?
Applebee's.
Applebee's using Burning Love.
Yes.
Girl, 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 you gonna set me on fire. My brain is flaming, I don't know which way to go. Your kisses lift me higher, like a sweet song of a choir. You light my morning sky, burning love.
Applebee's Bigger, Bolder Grill Combos. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
What's up with that? What does it have to do with Burning Love? It's hot food?
Yeah, pretty much. They're showing off fire and like from a grill and just playing around with the...
I don't get the correlation because that could be any restaurant, can it?
Yeah, it can. That's the whole thing. Like, I mean, that's just restaurant marketing in general. Like, it doesn't have to be the songs that they pick for their commercials. Dude, the songs that get picked for commercials often have nothing to do with the product being sold whatsoever. I can't tell you how many Here Comes the Suns, like from the Beatles, I've seen in commercials that have nothing to do with the product being sold. Yeah.
I wonder why they picked Burning Love. I wonder if someone was a fan.
Could be. But it's nice to hear Elvis out on the airwaves again.
Oh, sure. Have you actually seen the commercial?
I have.
No, you don't have. Yeah, you don't have TV, do you?
No, but I actually watched it online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's out there, and definitely recommend people check that out. It's just like a quick 30-second spot. It's nothing fancy, and they do use the original version from '72. They don't use like an updated or a remix or the Philharmonic Orchestra version. It is the original master, which is great.
Cool. Any other news bits?
Yeah, there's one other bit of news. There's going to be a new concert tour. There was a press release either, can't remember if it was this morning or yesterday, but the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra is doing a concert tour in the UK. Essentially, they're doing a series of, 6 different venues. And they'll be basically they're doing what they used to do with the Elvis in Concert series, where it's Elvis on the screen with this isolated vocal, and then the live band and the live orchestra on stage. But apparently this year it is they are including the TCB band, Elvis's original and longtime backing band.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Because the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra concerts that they did before, I don't believe included the TCB band.
So most likely they're sticking to 70s stuff?
You know, you would think, and certainly there is a lot of 70s stuff, but I've been surprised looking at some of the set lists for some of the previous shows like this, and they do actually use quite a bit of non-70s material. They'll do stuff from the 68 special that they have multi-tracks for. Stuff like Guitar Man and some of the gospel material. Occasionally they'll throw in, I think something like Love Me Tender or It's Now or Never, but they'll just use the recording of his vocal
rather than anything.
But they'll set it to like a montage of like home movies or something like that.
Right.
So that there's at least something to watch while that's going on. But yeah, I have never actually been to one of the Elvis in concert shows. I always thought that they were kind of a neat concept. I have the DVD of the 25th anniversary one that they did in Memphis in 90. Well, I say that would have been 2002. And so yeah, I've got the DVD of that was officially released, and it's kind of a neat documentary of how those shows came together.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Came from. Have you ever you haven't been to one of those shows?
No, I don't think they've ever had those here.
Would you go to them?
If they did, yeah, I think I would.
Yeah,
why not?
Absolutely,
something different.
Yeah, well,
I'd have to find someone to take, but
as close to a live Elvis show as we're going to get, nowadays.
I would be one of those sad people that go. Are we ready for trivia?
I don't know, man.
Such an easy question. Why can't I get an answer?
So, this week I gave you mostly Elvis songs.
Okay.
Yeah, except for one oddity. But, there's no multiple choice, so
okay.
We'll see how you do. Are you ready?
I think so. I think I'm ready.
Okay, so in Jailhouse Rock, Vince and Peggy get their song stolen by Geneva Records. Mickey Alba. To combat this, they start their own record label. Can you name this new company? And for bonus points, can you name the attorney who helped them set it up?
Okay. Because the one that always sticks with me is Geneva, which is the one that the other.
Yeah, this is the one they started with "Treat Me Nice."
Let's see, because they're sitting there, and I remember them talking because they're lying on the bed.
They even repeat the name a few times when they're doing "Treat Me Nice." Well, can you name the attorney?
Okay, I remember. Is it? No, it's not Scholes, because Steve Scholes is the real guy.
That's what I was thinking.
Shores, is that right?
Yes, good job. You got that part.
Okay, that's the bonus point. I need to get the actual question.
Yeah.
Is it? Hang on, I'm like digging deep into my recesses because it's been a couple years since I watched the movie.
Yeah.
Is it Laurel?
Laurel Records is correct.
You know something? I'm gonna make you rich.
I'm already rich.
You'll be richer. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Shores.
You're welcome.
You got it? Okay, we're ready. Stand by, please. What's this new label of yours? Laurel Records. Laurel, number 101, take one.
Yeah, because I remember they call out the take, and they're like, Laurel Records, take one, or something like that.
Good job. You dug deep for that one.
Well, that was the movie that I spent, I think, the most time with on Blue Suede Reviews. So, yeah.
But you still had to, think hard.
I know that one kind of in and out, but yeah, that one.
I'm picturing you as Winnie the Pooh pounding on your head, saying, think. Yeah. And then you're just like, oh, bother.
Right.
Okay, very good. Number
Okay.
2. This is the non-Elvis one. In the 1962 novelty song Monster Mash, a specific vocal group backing the Coffin Bangers is shouted out. Can you name that group?
Oh, is that all there was?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also a bonus question. Okay. I can ask you that right now if you want.
Okay. Sure.
So the bonus question is, a particular monster is upset that the Mash has taken over his dance. What was that dance? So 2 questions from the same song.
Okay,
the first one is
so it's a 2-parter. I know that the second one is the Transylvania Twist.
That's correct.
Because Dracula is the one who's actually upset about that.
They played the Monster Mash. Out from his coffin, Rex's voice did ring. Seemed he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania Twist?
It's now the mash.
It's now the Monster Mash."
And then the vocal group is backing up the Coffin Bangers, and they are shouted out.
The Something 5.
You're right there. You're right there.
No, that's. I'm thinking of that frickin' show from the '90s with the the creepy, like, zombie-looking guy that laughed crazily.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Crypt Keeper.
Oh, the Crypt Keeper, yeah.
Yeah. Is that it?
No, that's not Tales from the... That's not...
Yeah,
no.
Tales from the Crypt, yeah.
Tales from the Crypt, yeah.
Yeah. Was it the Crypt Keeper? No, that's not... No.
Well, I don't think one person can be a vocal group. You want me to give it to you?
Yeah, I don't got that one.
You're so close. The Crypt Kicker 5.
Igor on chains backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker 5. They played the monster.
You're close, though, and you got the bonus question, so you're doing very well. Okay, so this one you probably get, I think. I don't think it's too tough, but anyway. The American Film Institute, as part of their 100-year series, listed AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs list in 2004. One Elvis song was listed at number 21. Can you name that song? Also, as a bonus point, shot in the dark, can you name the number one song?
It's got to be Jailhouse Rock.
That's
for the
correct.
Elvis song.
That's correct.
Spider Murphy played his tenor saxophone. Little Joe was blowing on the slide trombone. The drummer boy from Illinois would crash, boom, bang. The whole rhythm section was a purple gang. Let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody knows everybody was dancing to the Jailhouse Rock.
But for number one, I'm going to say...
So think about the most popular films, and what song would be number one out of all of those?
Probably Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
Oh, wow, that's excellent. You got it.
Nice.
That's good. Judy Garland, 1939.
I mean, but that's an all-time classic. That's one.
Can you possibly know number two?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like old movies, songs. I don't know. Maybe like Bing Crosby's White Christmas or something.
No. As Time Goes By from Casablanca.
Oh.
And number three was Singing in the Rain.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Casablanca,
Man,
Michael Curtiz film. Michael Curtiz of
sure.
King Creole.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're on fire here.
It comes around.
You're on fire.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay, so seven Elvis songs start with the word blue. Can you name them all? Now, I'm going to give you one that doesn't count, and that's Blueberry Hill, because it's blueberry, not blue.
Okay, so it starts with just the word blue.
Blue, and there's 7 of them.
Okay, well, for sure, Blue Suede Shoes.
Well, it's blue, blue suede shoes. Blue, blue suede shoes. Yeah! Blue suede shoes, baby. Blue suede shoes. Well, you can do anything but stay home for my blue suede shoes.
Yes.
Blue Moon of Kentucky.
Yes.
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the boys, gonna let me blue.
That's 2. 5 more.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you.
Very nice.
But I have a blue Christmas.
I had a feeling you would get this, but I wasn't sure. So you got 4 more to do.
4 more. Night in you and blue Hawaii.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Night and you and blue Hawaii.
Blue River can't be found on any mountain I know.
Double Trouble.
Blue River, it can be found on any map that I know, but it's a place where lonely lovers all go to cry their tears. Blue River.
2 more. Holy crap.
I think this was your song of the week once. Blue Moon, you saw me standing alone.
That would have been like my first. One song left. Can this kid do it?
Blue. For some reason, my brain just keeps going to Leanne Rimes. Blue.
The yodeling.
Oh, so lonesome for you.
I always thought Patsy Cline did that, but apparently she never got to it.
No,
she died before.
No, she never did. Blue. I know what it is. It was supposedly the last song that he ever sang in his entire life. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain.
Correct. Good job.
Blue eyes crying in the rain.
From that, the Elvis Presley Boulevard album.
Holy moly.
Very nice. Very good. You should be commended for that.
Well, those are a little easier than the ones that I have given you, like, you know, that reference cities and stuff.
Yeah,
these are all pretty thematically similar, and it's not like
You're ruthless on that.
Sweet.
All right, so let's get on to the last one.
Okay.
And I think you should be able to get this. But...
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted the first 10 performers in 1986. Can you name them? The first one is very obvious.
Okay, well, Elvis Presley, obviously.
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you get one wrong, then you're wrong.
Okay, so this is...
Or no, I should give you... I should.
So this is make it or break it.
I should give you... I should give you 3 chances, maybe?
Okay, yeah, well, 3 strikes. 3 strikes.
Yeah, 3 strikes.
Okay.
So you got 2 right now out of the 10.
Chuck Berry.
Yes.
Little Richard.
Yes.
Carl Perkins? No.
That's 1 strike.
Okay. Did I say Jerry Lee Lewis?
You didn't, but that's 1.
Okay. I'm just running through the $1 Million Quartet. I don't think Johnny was right up front there.
So you got 5. You have 5 more to do.
5.
And you got 1 strike.
Sam Cooke?
Yes.
Aretha Franklin?
Strike. 1 last strike. One last chance to get it.
Well, if Carl definitely didn't make it that year, Roy Orbison definitely didn't make it that year. Jackie Wilson.
Strike.
Shoot.
All right, so you missed.
Those are good guesses, though.
Those are.
They deserved it. They deserved it.
One I thought you would have got was Fats Domino.
Oh, yeah.
Another one was Ray Charles. And then the Everly Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one was James Brown.
Oh, I wouldn't have even thought of James.
Yeah, James Brown's kind of like the outlier from that group.
Yeah, because he was a little bit later.
Well, he was in the 50s still.
He was, but he was way more prominent in like the late 60s and early 70s.
But besides that, you did well still. Very good. Very, very good.
Okay.
Much better than I would have. You did good, kid.
I did respectably.
Yes. All those blues that you got.
Yeah.
All right. So, should we move on to our main topic?
Our main topic. We haven't had a main topic in weeks. Weeks. And we are here with our main topic. We're talking about one of Elvis's influences and contemporaries. We are talking about LaVern Baker.
Now, he never pointed out LaVern Baker as an influence, did he? Besides covering her music?
Not explicitly. I don't think there's an interview of him mentioning LaVern Baker.
Yeah.
But
obviously he was,
the influence was very obvious.
Yeah.
In the material that he picked and the songs that he covered of hers, certainly he was aware of her music. And I think on some songs you can definitely say that there's some influence in the way that he performed vocally.
For sure.
What have you what's been your history with LaVern Baker? What have you known of her before we did TCBcast?
So I would have been familiar with her with the chess compilations of the 50s, like the R&B type compilations. And those would have been like the late '80s, early '90s, and Twiddly Dee and Jim Dandy would have been the two songs that I was most familiar with.
Those are the big hits.
Yeah, and then maybe like a few years later, I Cried a Tear would have been one that I heard. But yeah, when I listened to Twiddly Dee, and I think on that Elvis TV series in the late '80s, Elvis, or whatever, the early years, he sang Tweedly Dee on that.
Yep.
And Ronnie McDowell did it, and I thought, wow, this is a good song. And as I looked for it, an Elvis version, I couldn't find it. Although there was one, you could find the bootleg from these early years, from '55, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always looking for it, and then when I got that compilation, I was like, oh, this must be the original, and it sounded really good. It sounded way better than the way Ronnie McDowell sang it. And I was like, this singer's really good. And then I got to Jim Dandy and I was like, yeah, I really do like this. Her vocal stylings are great. And, as I eventually heard Elvis's version, but I was always I became a fan when I first got that compilation. And later on, I would seek out, like, the way, it was almost like a gateway drug for me, these compilations.
Yeah.
It would feature an artist, and then later I would go seek that artist, like a whole CD or a box set of that artist, and LaVern Baker was one. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 different CDs of all her hits, or a big bulk of her discography.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just became a fan of her just over time, reading up on her. I don't think there was ever a book on her.
No,
but,
there hasn't been.
Reading articles.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, so just reading up on her and her history and stuff. So I've always been a fan. I always thought she was a great vocalist from that early rock and roll period.
Yeah.
What about you?
So similar to you, I was introduced to her through Elvis and Tweedly Dee. When I was younger, and I was a young Elvis fan, like, had just become an Elvis fan. I was like 13, 14 years old. There was a CD that I had gotten at a local. It's not a big box store, but it was very similar. It was called Pomida. It's comparable to, like,
no one's heard of this.
Yeah, well, it's like the next step down. Do you know what a Shopko is?
Mm-hmm.
It's very comparable to that. And in fact,
right.
the Pomida that we had did get turned into a Shopko, and now they're all closing. But they would have CDs that they would import, or they would have CDs that they would get in for sale, but they would be imports because they were super cheap. And one of the CDs that I picked up there was, and it was like $5, but it was an Elvis Live in the 50s CD. And it was a compilation of, like, hayride recordings and stuff. And one of the songs on there was Tweedly Dee.
Right.
And then when I got the 50s Masters set, I had I pulled it off there and had carried that version forward through my collection, but I'd never really dug into her history and music until several years later. When...
So at this time, you don't even know of her.
No,
so far you just talked about Elvis's version.
Right. And so then later on,
you were blissfully ignorant.
I found out that there was an original version, obviously, by LaVern Baker, and I found it online, listened to it, and I was like, okay, this lady is crazy cool. What else does she have? And much like you, opened up a door to kind of go back through and see not only her rock and roll stuff, but her R&B stuff, her pop stuff, and even back to kind of the very beginning of her career, some of the big band swing type stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Just a correction. It wasn't a chess set. It was an Atlantic Rhythm and Blues.
Yes.
That was these 2 CDs I got. Actually, I think there was a set of 5 or 6. I got the first 2, or maybe 2 and 3. That's where I got the majority of the stuff from.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was definitely through Elvis. And for me, I've kind of taken to saying that, like, the way I consider Elvis in the history of, like, popular music is that he is, like, the cultural linchpin of the 20th and 21st century, because you can start with him and work your way out to any, like, branch of artist or genre. In some way or another, it'll connect back around to Elvis.
Right.
So with LaVern Baker, though, I wanted to do this episode to highlight her as an influence on Elvis, because there were a lot of songs that she did that he directly covered, or there were songs that they both did versions of.
Right.
And I thought it would be interesting to look through her career, because there haven't been a lot of retrospectives about her.
I don't think so.
In the last 20, 30 years, because she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then she passed away in the 90s, but then she was kind of forgotten for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to bring, attention to her. If you aren't familiar with her music, I wanted to let people know, like, how awesome her vocals are. And
oh, she's great.
How influential her music was, not only on Elvis, but on rock and pop music going forward.
This will follow our previous episodes of Elvis Contemporaries. What did we do? We did Roy Hamilton.
And Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis. And I think that's it. We just did the Day the Music Died. I wasn't really part of that series.
Yeah, it kind of counts.
Yeah, we'll probably go back and do a proper.
We at least did Big Bopper and Richie Valens in that one pretty well.
Yeah. So
Buddy Holly definitely deserves his own. But yeah, so LaVern Baker was born Dolores Williams in Chicago in November.
I thought it was Dolores Evans.
See, this is the thing. There's no like one, because I read a source that said Dolores Williams. I saw one that does Dolores Baker.
Exactly, it's both. I just looked it up. It's both.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and
crazy. Okay, well, it's either of those.
Yeah, which I might add is 90 years ago this year. And she was,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and she was raised by her aunt, who was a jazz singer. Merlene Johnson was her name, and as many of her peers and contemporaries in the field of music in the mid 20th century, began singing in her church, and quickly rose through.
Well, you forgot about her aunt, Memphis Minnie. She was a blues singer, and a guitarist herself.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And there's a connection, Memphis Minnie.
Yes, indeed. And so, essentially, she became very quickly, one of the popular voices at her church, and she decided that she wanted to be a singer. And so, at age 17, she started performing in clubs in the south side of Chicago under the title of Little Miss Sharecropper.
Mm-hmm. She used to wear a straw hat and a dress made out of patches.
Yeah, and it was like a cotton sack dress, and it had the patches, and it was, what she was doing was that she was playing up to, there were a lot of domestic migrants at the time, African Americans that had moved from the south to the north, and so she was really playing to them, and what they were familiar with, and kind of spoofing and playing on some of the stereotypes that they had of that kind of individual.
Right.
And so she was starting to gain a substantial amount of success, and then she moved to Detroit and took a job at the Flame Show Bar, and she kept the title of Little Miss Sharecropper and kind of kept up the gig for a while with the gimmick. And in 1949, the Eddie Sugarman Pennegar Band hired her to perform on a couple of their singles, including her, basically what was her first single called I Wonder Baby.
Well, I wonder, baby, what have I done to you? Yes, I wonder, baby, what have I done to you? You know that I love you, and you know that I've been true.
And so what were your thoughts on this? Because this is
very different from what she would evolve into.
Mm-hmm.
Her voice is still there, and it's very bluesy type vocals.
Yeah.
But it's not like something that I would that would capture my attention.
No.
But the voice is there.
Yeah,
you can hear it.
It's funny listening to it though, because especially when you compare it to her later stuff, it's like now comparing like Elvis's demos that he did at Memphis Recording Service to like his 1969, 1970 stuff. Like there's clearly when you hear that, her voice is still like unpolished, which is kind of charming in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
But you can definitely tell that she's got this powerhouse vocal right out in front, and that she definitely has this personality that's already there and coming out on the recording.
Well, you called me your lover. You said I was your pal. Now you quit me, pretty baby, and me call me your gal. Well, I wonder, what have I done to you?
And so that was kind of her first single, and swing and big band were kind of on its way out, and as rhythm and blues was coming in, she figured, okay, let's drop this persona, and let's go under the name LaVern Baker, and basically not necessarily strike out on her own at first. She started working with the Todd Rhodes Orchestra, and this was like around 1952, and one of the songs that she recorded at that time that's kind of interesting to listen to is called I Wanna Rock.
Right.
Hey baby, don't you move. We just kill the fifth and I'm in the groove, 'cause I'm a rockin' mama. Ooh, I'm a rockin' mama. I'm a rockin' mama, and I'll rock your blues away.
What was your thoughts on I Want to Rock? Because it's
another it's a bluesy number.
Well, it's getting closer to
It's getting
R&B.
closer. It's not quite there, but it is. I noticed the word rock is used quite a bit before it became popular.
It's proto rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like she's right there in front of the pack, like in terms of crossing over, and it's kind of interesting because like the way I described it when I was taking notes was like it's a solid swing song that gets progressively more R&B and rock and roll as the song itself goes. Like it ends.
The voice is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the song itself is not particularly memorable, but I just thought it was an interesting recording to listen to, considering that it does feature the word rock. And, you know, the rock and roll kind of explosion was still at its earliest 4 years away. More realistically, 5-6 years away when Elvis hit the scene. But again, it's that early.
People were
rock and roll.
using that word.
People were using that phrase. It existed.
Yeah, it did.
I'm a rockin' mama, now rock your blues away. I wanna rock, I wanna rock, I wanna rock, I wanna rock. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm a rock, I wanna 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 rock.
And so after that, she realized that she didn't need the persona anymore. She could just go out on her own as a solo artist. And what she ended up doing was that she did become a solo artist, but she did it in kind of an unconventional way. Rather than starting as a solo artist in the U.S., she actually went and toured Europe first. And then when she had created a buzz overseas and had gotten pretty popular over there, she came back over to the States and signed a deal with Atlantic Records. And so her first single for Atlantic when she got back to the States was called Soul on Fire, Set My Soul on Fire. This was 1953. This was her first single billed as, this is, you know, LaVern Baker.
I played the love game before I met you. It's a game I've always won, but now you set my soul on fire, and I really had my fun.
Yes. this is like her coming out party.
Yes.
I mean, when you listen to this right away, you can hear the big transition from what she was doing before to now. It's like Little Miss Sharecropper is gone, and like unveiled is LaVern Baker.
Yeah.
This is the type of music that's like my jam.
I wrote that. I was like, this is so close to doo-wop, just without a backing group.
Yeah. Very heavy on the drums. It's like that cusp of rock and roll revolution coming. Whereas her earlier records were blues, this is like pure rhythm and blues and touches of doo-wop. I mean, this is my wheelhouse right here.
And like what I love that big, like, it's only a couple lines, but that big like dramatic chorus where she says the set my soul on fire. And it's just like, I kind of wish that like Elvis had done a cover of this one like circa 1960. Like, can you imagine like that? Can you hear it?
There's a lot of songs I wish he would have done in the 60s.
Yeah, but like this one specifically for like LaVern Baker songs, I'm surprised that this one he didn't pick up, because I can really hear him singing this one.
But the next one is pretty big.
Well, yeah. Her breakout single was 1954, the following year, with Tweedledee, which...
wasn't it 55 or was it 54?
No, it was 54.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
Tweedledee. I'm as happy as can be. Timiny crickets, Timiny Jack, you make my heart go clickety clack.
So yeah, this was, I think we've talked about it in the past, but it's a great song. I love her voice. Very, very playful and light, almost pop, you can say.
Yeah.
The backup vocals were by the Q's, they were credited as the Gliders.
Yeah. And just
yeah.
A little bit about the Q's. They were kind of a session backing group. They had 4 different singers. One of which was Ollie Jones from the Ravens. There were 2 other guys, Abel DaCosta and Edward Barnes. And then the 4th name is one that you are probably familiar with, Winfield Scott.
For sure.
And for folks who that name doesn't immediately pop out to, Winfield Scott was a songwriter who would later write songs for Elvis, including Return to Sender, We're Coming and Loaded, One Broken Heart for Sale, Stranger in the Crowd, just a bunch of other ones. Oh, and Such
with
an Easy Question.
With other people.
Yes, oftentimes with Otis Blackwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and just to on your point about whether it was 54 or 55, it actually came out October 54 and then basically hit its peak in 55.
Right. It was number 14 on the pop charts, number 4 on the R&B charts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the one that was covered by Georgia Gibb, famous for Dance With Me, Henry. And she pretty much copied the arrangement exactly. And she hit number 1. So LaVern wasn't too happy with that.
She was
pissed. Yeah, she was trying. You just picture her getting all bad. And she tried to sue her and try to petition Congress that would consider, these kind of covers copyright violations. But I guess it didn't go anywhere.
No. I read a story that was kind of interesting that when that failed and she couldn't lobby Congress to do anything, which let's stop for a second and just realize that this is 1954, 1955, and there's an African-American musical performer who's a female, who's a woman, who's petitioning Congress to do something about, white artists copying the arrangements. And we're talking not just adapting these songs, but note for note copying these songs and putting them out specifically to kick the other ones off the charts. She was immensely progressive in this regard.
Now, did you hear Georgia Gibbs' version?
Yes, I have. I went to listen to it specifically for this purpose of listening to this episode.
Right. What did you think?
Not even close.
I mean, I'm not going to dismiss it as
bad.
like Pat Boone, but it like Georgia Gibb could sing, and I do give her props because it does sound good. Obviously, it's not as good as the original, but like "Dance with Me, Henry" is another song that Georgia Gibb had covered.
Yeah,
and I actually prefer hers to the original.
Hey, baby, what do I have to do to make you love me too?
You got to roll with me, Henry.
All right, baby.
Roll with me, Henry.
Don't mean baby.
Rock with me, Henry.
Any old time.
Talk to me, Henry.
Don't change your mind.
Dance with me, Henry.
All right.
You better dance while the music goes on. Roll on, roll on, roll on.
Well, and what was interesting was with "Dance with Me, Henry," because that was an Etta James song.
Yeah.
After that came out, because LaVern Baker had already been through everything that she had been through with Georgia Gibbs, starting with WINS Radio, where Alan Freed was DJing, there were a bunch of radio stations that basically said, we're not going to play copy records anymore because it's unfair to the original artists that are putting this out, putting the original songs out. And so other stations across the country started to follow, and then some of the record labels, RCA First was the first one to hop on board and say, like, okay, our policy is now that covers are not, because it used to be, and we've talked about this before, like on the Roy Hamilton episode, when Roy Hamilton came out and did "You'll Never Walk Alone," there were like 2 other versions of "You'll Never Walk Alone" out there at the same time, and that was pretty common. Blue Moon had hundreds of covers out there at the same time because they would encourage, the record labels would encourage them to do that because they made more money off of the publishing than they did off of the actual recording itself.
And the artist would kind of get screwed over.
Right. And so now the tables had turned, and it was actually to everyone's detriment to have all these covers out there. And so it was just nice, like, it started with LaVern Baker and then pushed further with Etta James to start or to stop the kind of what would you call it? My brain just like totally what had been the norm for a while, for so many years of having covers out there. And so that was just an interesting kind of note on how that happened. One quick thing I wanted to mention about the composition of Tweedledee. According to Winfield Scott, the song was actually written, it wasn't even completely written when he presented it to her, but she liked it so much that he went back home and finished it overnight, and they recorded it the next day.
Nice.
So talk about a crunch.
Well, before we get off Tweedledee, what do you think of Elvis's version? It's a live version, but
so there's 3 known versions that we have recordings of, all 3 of which are available on the A Boy from Tupelo set. The best audio version and most well-known version is the April 30th Hayride recording, which I had heard on the 50s Masters box set bonus disc. That's the one where Elvis is late getting to the show, and it's the only song he performs, and they're like, Elvis, give us a 2-minute version of Tweedledee. But
I'm surprised that old guy or whoever he was knew what Tweedledee was.
Right? But I think it's an excellent version. It's not, I wouldn't say it's anywhere near LaVern Baker's, but Elvis's voice is right out in front. You can hear Bill thumping along. There's a piano. I'm not sure who was playing piano with him on that tour. Do you remember?
No.
But there's like a country boogie-woogie piano going on that. Scotty's solo is about on par with a lot of what he had been doing at Sun at that time. It's pretty... It has that rough edge that was common in Elvis's music at that time.
Yeah, but he follows LaVern kind of, but he adds his own flair to it. And he mixes in that rockabilly.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's definitely leaning more country, particularly with Scotty's guitar riffs. Like, because Scotty, and we've talked before, he had a major country pedigree. And so, you definitely hear that in the arrangement in Elvis's version.
Tweedledee, Tweedledee. Give it up, give your love to me. Tweedledee-dot, Tweedledee-dot.
Give me all the love you got. Hold it on, Tweedledee.
but it's definitely a really fun recording if you want to revisit it. And to be fair, not quite as great as LaVern's, but definitely it's a shame that Elvis never did it in the studio, because I think he would have really pulled it off well.
So what do we got? Jim Dandy?
Yeah, so her next kind of major hit was Jim Dandy in 1956. And by this point, it is full-on 50s pop.
Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Go, Jim Dandy. Go, Jim Dandy. Jim Dandy on a mountain top. 30,000 feet to drop. Spider lady on a runaway horse. Aha, that's right, of course. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Go, Jim Dandy. Go, Jim Dandy.
What's your take on Jim Dandy?
Oh, I think Jim Dandy's great. That piano intro, it's really good, and
that saxophone solo.
Yes, and man, does she sound excellent on it. She has that rough, commanding voice.
Yes.
Like you want to listen, and do whatever she says. And the song's kind of funny about a guy who rescues women from various predicaments.
He's all like, it's totally like damsels in distress, and he's coming to the rescue. Like, it's like a superhero. And then we didn't have it on our list, but there were the follow-up songs.
Which is more of the same.
Yeah.
And I guess the Gliders are backing her up, and they're Jordanaring excellently.
They are, but it really does sound almost like the Jordanaires are on it.
Yeah. And then obviously Jim Dandy is referenced on Little Sister.
Right. We had talked about that. Which episode did we have Little Sister as a song of the week? Do you remember?
Was that the one with Ryan on it?
I think it might have been.
Harem Scarum, maybe? I can't remember.
I'm just pulling up our list really quick. Yeah, Harem Scarum, Part 2, Episode 51. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. That was a reference to this song. Which, when you know what Jim Dandy, the song, is actually about, is kind of funny. Because essentially what Elvis's character in Little Sister is doing is saying that Jim Dandy thought that the girlfriend was in trouble being with Elvis. So...
Go, Jim Dandy! Go! Jim Dandy in a submarine got a message from a mermaid queen.
But yeah. Then one song that I wanted to touch on that wasn't it wasn't an original song for her, and certainly wasn't a cover when Elvis did it, because he did it first. But I wanted to compare the versions of her version of Tomorrow Night from 1957 and her version of Harbor Lights from 1958. What are your thoughts on her versions of Tomorrow Night and Harbor Lights?
I do like it. Have you ever heard Lonnie Johnson's version from 1948?
Yeah, we talked about this before, I think.
Did we? I can't remember.
Way back on, I think, the Sun Records
I really
episode.
like that version. It's very bluesy.
Yes.
But I do like LaVern's version as well. The back vocals really add a lot. It gives her a fuller sound compared to Elvis's. But then I do like Elvis's vocals on his. So it's like two sides of the same coin, I guess.
Tomorrow night, will it be just another memory? Just another lovely song
that's in my poor heart to linger on.
What I love about hers, because it does harken. We're talking about Tomorrow Night. It harkens back to her kind of earlier jazz days, but it's a fulfillment of that promise that you heard in some of her earlier material.
Yeah,
and she's got like that mournful voice, like sound in her voice that you kind of like. You're starting to get concerned. Like, is that guy really going to be there tomorrow night?
But Elvis gets that too near the end when he's like, "Telling me, darling, will it last?"
Yeah, that's true.
he has that. I don't know. I really like Elvis's vocals on this too.
And you willingly surrender. Tell me, darling, will it last tomorrow night? Will you be with me when the moon's bright?
Yeah, no, Elvis threw himself.
I want to see a duet between both of them on this song.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
If Elvis had revisited it in the 60s or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then
Too
Harbor
busy
Lights.
singing, there's no room to Ramba in a sports car.
Yeah, well.
No time for tomorrow night.
Yeah, that was a thing. So Harbor Lights, which, to be fair to Elvis, was his first professional recording.
Right.
So I'm not going to judge Elvis's version on polish, but her arrangement is definitely more kind of a conventional crooner type. But her vocal delivery is still less straightforward. Like the arrangement, you could hear any like random, like even like a male crooner singing it to that. But her vocal is way more interesting than what Elvis did on his.
I like Elvis's. He gives kind of a haunting performance.
But just caveat to this recording, I hate that organ. It sounds off. It's like the freaking roller rink organ, and it's corny.
I long to hold you near, baby, kiss you just once more, but you on the ship and I was on the shore. Now I know lonely nights, for all the while my heart keeps praying that someday Harbor Lights will bring you back to me.
I really like. I actually wish that there was a technology to like strike corny organs from all of the 50s and 60s songs that used them.
I don't think I have as much of a problem with them as you do.
I do. They're awful.
Okay. It's a matter of opinion.
But
subjective.
It's a pretty well delivered version of Harbor Lights. So what else was going on in her life? So she was pumping out hits. Basically, she was doing extremely well on the R&B charts. She was crossing over a little bit onto the pop charts, but in 1958, she had
biggest song,
her big one.
Yeah,
I Cried a Tear, which was a top 10 hit.
Yes, number 6.
Yep, and reached number 2 on the R&B chart.
Mm-hmm.
I cried a tear because of you. I cried a tear because we're through. I cried a tear. What else could I do but cry inside for love of you?
What's your history with this song? Because you mentioned it earlier that this might have been one of the earlier songs that you had heard from her.
I did, but I heard Chuck Willis's version before that, which is called "What Am I Living For?"
Oh.
And I was like, wait a second, this sounds like another song.
I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, so Chuck Willis had the original version called "What Am I Living For?" and it's pretty much a copy, like down to the sax.
Yeah.
It's really funny because she went to Congress because of Tweedledee, but here she did the same thing.
Well, she did change the lyrics.
I mean, come on. If you listen to both songs, you're like, obviously this is the same song.
She changed the lyrics. It's fine.
What am I living for if not for you? What am I living for if not for you?
And
anyway, I like
of
both versions. I like both versions of the song, and I don't think I can pick one or the other. But wow, the vocals, like How many times can I say her vocals are excellent?
I know, but like this is one of those songs that I can hear like in my mind, like I can imagine like the girl at the jukebox dropping a dime in after their fella breaks up with them over a shake, and yeah, it's like, I mean, this is like prime jukebox material from the 50s. This is if there is such a thing as a LaVern Baker like classic, this is one of them.
Please make my dreams of you come true. Don't make me cry a tear for you. Don't make me cry a tear for you.
And so I guess she got married around this time too.
She did.
To Slappy White. She married a guy named Slappy.
Yeah. And that didn't end so well.
Did you know of this gentleman?
I didn't until I was looking up biographical information for her.
The only reason I know is because I used to watch Sanford and Son,
mm-hmm.
and he was one of Fred's friends on it. And it was about a junk man and his son, and Red Fox played the older gentleman, Fred Sanford. And Slappy White was one of his friends that, if you don't know, Sanford and Son is basically about two junk dealers.
No, I've seen some episodes of it.
Okay. So it seems like his son Lamont, it's always going around collecting junk for them to sell, and Fred is like pretty much just wasting the day away watching TV, eating, and having his friends over, and that's where the comedy gets come from there. And Slappy was one of the friends, so that's the only reason I knew him. But yeah, I don't know what he looked like back then, but when you look at him in Sanford and Son, you're like, she married him.
Yeah, he's kind of plain looking.
Yeah. So.
But
love is blind.
It's true. It's true. And we'll get to how that ended in a bit. But she still, as the winds were changing on rock and roll, it was heading out. Pop was coming back in for a few years until the Beatles would bring rock and roll back around. In 1960, one of the songs that she had that is notable is Shake a Hand from her album Saved.
Just leave it to me. Don't ever be ashamed. Just give me a chance. I'll take care of everything.
Yeah. So, I know Elvis covered this as well. This is not really one of my favorite songs. She still sounds good on it, and the sax is great, but it's not one of my favorites. Same thing with Elvis's. I think it's because the chorus isn't very catchy to me. Maybe that might be it. I don't know. What do you think of this song?
So, re-listening to this song for this episode makes me think that I want to probably pick this as one of my songs of the week.
Okay. Well, it's not going to be one of my songs of the week.
Because I really like if you listen to this with like a good set of headphones, you can hear in LaVern Baker's version that she is she's having to keep backing away from the microphone and leaning into it, because she gets so loud and then she gets so quiet, and she's just got this great control over her voice and where to be in relation to the microphone, and still give this great performance. But then you go to Elvis's version, and his is taken at a slightly faster pace, and it's got this more of a kind of country honky-tonk arrangement. And I guess I had always kind of, not necessarily written off, but never thought about this song, Elvis's version, like it was there and I knew it and I knew kind of the hook of it. But listening to it for this one, for this episode, I'm like, this is a really cool freaking song. Like Elvis is oozing cool on this. Like you actually you get into a good groove. Like if you just don't listen to it in the context of the Today album, just listen to it on its own. He's actually trying pretty hard on this one vocally.
Shake a hand,
Well, I'm willing to give it another chance.
Yeah, give it another chance. Check it out, and listen to the more recent digital mix, because I think on the original LP, it's pretty muddy sounding, and that was pretty common of Today and from Elvis Presley Boulevard.
And my
Memphis,
problem wasn't
Tennessee,
the vocals either, like hers or his. It's just the song itself, the lyrics.
Yeah, the song is definitely, like you said, the chorus isn't something that's like super catchy.
No.
But if you give it, like, if you get into the right headspace for it, it's got a great groove. I think that Elvis fans definitely need to revisit Elvis's version, because the TCB band on this too is tight.
Yep.
They're on top of it. But yeah, so it's interesting just to compare her version with Elvis's, because he clearly did take some influence from her version in some of the delivery of some of the lines, which is interesting. And then the next one that she would do that Elvis also touched was in 1961, a duet with Jimmy Ricks.
Mm-hmm.
You're the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when it comes to bopping and natural finger popping, baby, you sure do swing.
And when it comes to bopping and a natural finger popping, Daddy, you are the king.
Baby, you got me beat up and down, inside out and across. Oh, yeah.
But in the middle of the night, when the moon is shining bright, you're the boss.
This song comes back again.
It does.
So, vocally, I don't think Jimmy Ricks, who was a member of the Ravens, can match LaVern. I mean, she really blows him out of the water. So maybe that's the reason why maybe he's used to being part of a group. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think of his vocals?
So it's interesting because he's like so deep in his bass vocal.
He's way down here.
And he's even further than that.
Yeah.
But
that's as low as I can get.
And it provides a neat like vocal contrast between his voice and LaVern's. The problem is that they can't necessarily harmonize as well in a way that's pleasing. Mm-hmm. Like technically they're harmonizing well, like on the notes, but they're just the voice tones just don't fit together well.
No.
When they're together, but when they're doing like backs and the kind of the call and response, the back and forth, the little asides, the sounds and the yas and the ums, and I think I really like this version of it. I actually much prefer this to Elvis's and Anne Margaret's.
You're the best of everything. You're a peach.
You're a plum.
And you're a diamond.
You're a pearl.
You're the best of everything. Baby, you're my girl now. When it comes to knowing which way the wind is blowing on now, baby, you sure are wise.
Well, with Elvis's, I mean, he outclassed Margaret, like, totally. But, you know, she comes off a little better than Rick's, maybe slightly. But, I mean, imagine LaVern and Elvis doing this song.
Oh, that would have been spectacular.
What a combo that would have been. Like, they would have been matching each other equally.
Because Anne Margaret, her voice is too breathy and nasally.
I don't even think she can sing. I think she just does that breathy type of Marilyn Monroe thing just to, you know, pass off as singing. The more and more we do this show, the more I don't like Anne Margaret. I just come to realize I really dislike her. I dislike her acting, and her singing doesn't leave much, you know.
Yeah,
either,
yeah. So one funny note on the
that's what I take away from this whole experience.
Yeah. We like years later that we finally finished TCBcast. We've done everything Elvis that could ever be done, and we're like, okay, and what did we learn? Anne Margaret wasn't really all that great.
No.
Oh, that's terrible. But one note that I took on Elvis's version when I was reading, in all caps, I wrote, "I want to break the fingers of whoever's playing the organ."
Right. Again with the organ.
It's
Here we go.
Really bad and distracting in Elvis's version.
Baby, you're a genius when it comes to cooking up some chili sauce. Oh, yeah.
But in the middle of the night
boss. You're the boss. You're the boss.
But as I said before, LaVern and Elvis would have been great, but obviously the Colonel would never have allowed that.
No.
His boy can never be matched or, outsung.
So, yeah, this never appeared in the movie with Elvis's version, and certainly he never got the chance to do a duet with LaVern Baker, but it's definitely worth checking out both versions of You're the Boss. The same year that she did You're the Boss, she also had another minor hit, top 40 tune, peaking at number 37 on the pop chart and number 17 on R&B, was Saved, a Lieber Stoller song.
I used to smoke, I used to drink, I used to smoke, drink, and there's the hoochie coo. I used to smoke and drink, and there's the hoochie coo. Oh yeah, but now I'm standing on this corner, praying for me and you. That's why I'm saved. I'm saved. People, let me tell you about a kingdom come. You know I'm saved. I'm saved.
Oh, come on, this song. This is... I mean, I've said as much as... this was my song of the week. What do you think of this?
Oh, this is like... This might be my favorite LaVern Baker song.
It's up there. It's up there.
Yeah. This was episode 20. This was your song of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love hearing her like scream out these lines while the backing vocals are singing and clapping away. This is
harks back to her gospel background.
Yeah, this is like the tent revival. Like, it's great. Like, this like if I go into a church in the South, like this is what like I expect to hear.
And like she can do these kind of gospel tracks without any effort and make them special.
No. Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. And the lyrics that Lieber and Stoller have on this are just insane. I used to drink, I used to smoke, dance the hoochie coo.
I still dance the hoochie coo when I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Elvis's version from the '68 special was
very special.
Well, and it's extremely faithful to LaVern Baker's arrangement.
Except this one, you really beat on that big bass drum.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like it's pounding.
Yeah.
On this.
And of course, with it being the '68 special, that kind of grit that he had in his voice at that time puts this is probably, for me, the song that he comes extremely close to outdoing LaVern Baker on one of her songs.
It's pretty close.
It is pretty darn close on this one.
People, let me tell you about a kingdom come, you know I'm saved. I'm saved. I can preach until you're deaf and dumb. I'm in that soul-saving army, beating on that big bass drum. Oh, yeah.
I used to lie. I used to cheat. I used to lie, cheat, step on people's feet. I used to lie and cheat and step on people's feet. Oh, yeah. But now I'm stepping on the glory. Salvation is my beat.
Yeah, definitely. This is up there. And then one that we've talked about before.
You keep bringing up songs I talked about in the past.
Well, you keep getting to them before.
Because I keep bringing up her name.
We're putting them all in one basket now.
There we go.
Hey, Memphis.
Hey, Memphis, won't you? Hey, Memphis, won't you? Hey, Memphis, won't you kiss me once or twice? Make me feel so nice I'd never run.
This is a direct response to Elvis.
Yeah.
Because this is a response to Little Sister.
I love the fact that there's like this secret nod between Elvis and LaVern.
Yeah,
so
like
it's kind of obvious that they're fans of each other.
Yeah, they didn't have to verbally like say it. They didn't have to verbalize it. Although LaVern Baker did. At a point later in her life, she actually said, and I pulled a quote. I just thought it was interesting. She said, quote, "He was fantastic. When he danced, the people danced. The girls would actually faint because of what he was doing. They didn't care if he was white or black. He was a good artist, and they felt his music." So, I mean, Hey Memphis, it's pretty much just Little Sister, but with a flipped gender. And it's
she's pulling the whole I Cried a Tear thing she did earlier.
Kinda, yeah.
That's her specialty.
But I would argue even less so, because I mean the lyrics, with the exception of a couple lyrics, it is exactly the same song.
I like how this is like Marvel. It's like a connected universe where it's like Jim Dandy saves all these girls, and then he falls in love with the older sister of the girl. Well, he thinks he's saving the girl that Elvis is going out with, so he takes her from him and marries her. Obviously, Jim Dandy got married.
Memphis.
No, Memphis. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and
we have all these characters.
Memphis, you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we'll manage to squeeze Peggy Sue in there and Lucille, and yeah,
exactly.
And they'll all be splish splash taking a bath.
And then that little sister obviously won't do what her big sister does.
Right. So yeah, definitely check out Hey Memphis. Then the following year, she had what was essentially kind of her last minor hit in a substantial way.
She decides to copy Chuck Willis again.
Well, yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Well, see, Rider, just to see what you have done. Lord, C.C. Rider, see what you have done. Well, you made me love you. Now your girl has come. What I say.
C.C. Rider, which was actually a much, much older song. It had been done by Ma Rainey in 1924. Yeah. Her version, LaVern Baker's version, went number 34 on the pop chart, number 9 on the R&B chart. What's your take on her version of C.C. Rider?
I really like her version, much better than Willis's. Like musically, vocally, everything is excellent on it.
Have you heard Ma Rainey's original version?
No, I don't think I did.
It's very slow. It is straight up blues. And so, yeah, from Ma Rainey's to LaVern Baker's, there's definitely a transformation. And then,
I mean, Willis's was pretty slow too.
Yeah, that's true.
She kind of sped it up.
But it's definitely this upbeat, and she uses the complete lyrics, unlike somebody we know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna buy me a shotgun, just as long as I am a tall. Yeah. Get me a shotgun, just as long as I am a tall. What I say, well, I'll shoot my baby, then I'll catch that cannonball. Oh, yeah.
It's interesting, and I'm not sure. I would have to do a little more research into Elvis's version, but I'm not sure how the lyrics shifted when Elvis got a hold of it.
I mean, Elvis mostly used it as an intro.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't even.
But why would he? Why did he pick that song though?
I mean, obviously he liked it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I figured it was just a good way to intro, his performances.
Yeah, it's interesting comparing the two. One thing that I would note, like, if you have listened to any of Elvis's live recordings recently, that FTDs or
soundboards.
Soundboards, or even some of the official releases of That's the Way It Is or something like that. Forget about those for a minute. Go back and listen to the original release of Elvis's version of C.C. Rider from On Stage. It's a really tight version. It rocks. Yeah. It's makes the Aloha from Hawaii version look lame. or sound lame rather, because it's really kicking.
I said, see, Ryder. Oh, see what you have done. I said, see, Ryder. Oh, see what you have done. Oh, girl, you made me love you. Now you love me better than gone. Hear what I say?
We got to talk about the Aloha Show and what we think about it. And...
We do. Yeah. So just to fill in a little bit on what had happened in between that last song and this song, she left Atlantic Records because the Beatles had come along in '64 and Motown was taking over the soul and pop kind of scene. And so she decided to go to Brunswick Records. And with the next several songs, they really didn't do much. And so led to her hitting some of these songs that we'll get to, and then we'll talk about where she ended up with her career after that. But just wanted to mention that she had dropped off Atlantic, wasn't having as much chart success. But another one of their contemporaries on the soul side was Jackie Wilson, and in 1966 she tried putting out a single with Jackie that was a duet called Think Twice.
Mm-hmm. We talked about this.
Well, it didn't do much, and it's a pretty genuinely fun kind of soul pop track, but it's pretty forgettable. But you can't say that about the other version of it.
Yeah. Now, did you do any research, like the background? Why was there like this X-rated version of this song with lots of cursing and very crass content for that?
I think they were just having fun.
Now listen to me, honey. I give you all the reefer, all the cocaine, and you still fuck it up. You understand that?
You're always pulling up your dress down my look, Jack.
That's all right, just lick it. You know how to do that, don't you?
I don't want no more of your reefer.
You know how to eat ice cream?
And your pussy.
You eat ice cream?
No, not that kind.
Chocolate, just lick it. All right? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, what's your take on it, though?
I think it's great. I think it's like, it's like getting a fly on the wall perspective of, how they would have been with each other. Just casually, joking back and forth.
Well, and that's the thing for me. And some of my favorite recordings of Elvis are the ones where he's just having fun and goofing off. And, some of his jam sessions and rehearsals where he's interjecting lyrics that don't make sense and or trying to get the band to crack up and stop playing.
You give me hope and constipation. Where the night winds sing and the eagles shit. Man, I'm telling you, you see, I traded sex for what I thought was being free. Her red cape was waving, but Pedro was shaving. He wanted to fuck her that night.
Because it humanizes, because it's so easy to take the polished final version,
right?
And it's this big thing. But like when you hear these versions, like no one's putting on any pretensions.
No.
They're just having fun, and they're just people being people. And
it gives you that. It gives you the seat right next to them while they were performing these and trying to work out the arrangements. You get to sit there almost and be invisible while they're doing this.
And
which is what I like about all the outtakes of Elvis's stuff. It's great listening to those.
Yeah, And I mean, this song, and it's an interesting historical note, just for anybody who hasn't heard it, like, because this song wouldn't fly on radio today.
Yeah, that's how crass it is.
Like, it's bad, but it's hilarious. Like,
they complement each other very well.
Oh yeah, and they talk about stuff that, like, you don't, like, even rap doesn't go near this, like, hardly today.
Yeah. I'm married. I never talked.
They're
about
talking about smoking reefer, and they're talking about
reciprocal oral stimulation.
Yes,
is what it's called.
Oh, it's great. Check it out.
I've got news for you, little boy.
What's that?
There ain't another a cut like me, so you better be nice, and keep your funky lights. Oh, baby, think twice. Yeah, dirty bastard, oh, baby.
So then, what happened after these kind of few singles came out was that she actually got fed up with not really having much success, and so she decided that she was going to go join the USO tour, and traveled to Europe, and where she had, you know, been earlier in her career, and she spent some time in Europe. And then when she got tired of being there, she decided, well, I'm going to go join the Asian kind of USO tour that they're doing, and go through Japan and Taiwan and the Philippines and Thailand and Vietnam and Guam, and hit kind of the military bases and perform for the service members. And by all accounts, everything I've read, she had nothing but good things to say about how that went. There was actually an interesting quote that I had found from 1990, where she was talking with the Washington Post, but she was talking about that time in her career, and she goes, even before I went into this, I saw so many performers, and I thought, gee whiz, why do they let themselves get like that? There's always something you can do besides drink whiskey and waste yourself away. I don't give a damn if you don't have any money. There's got to be something. Find out what you can do and what's good for you. Don't just sit there and moan, nobody loves me. If you don't do it for yourself, who will?
Right.
And so that was kind of the mantra that she took in doing this USO thing. But it quickly went wrong for her. She caught pneumonia, which wouldn't have been as bad, but she kept performing. And she kept performing and kept performing. And then her lung collapsed. And she spent 3 months recuperating. And essentially the USO tour left her stranded in Thailand and had gone back to the United States. And so in the meanwhile, like, Brunswick still has recordings from her that they're putting out while this is all going on. One of those that comes out is a weird tie-in single to the Batman 1966 TV show. And interestingly, well, first off, what's your take on this?
I never heard this before. It was not on any of the compilations that I've had previously.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a novelty track. And it seemed to borrow heavily from Jim Dandy, because it's pretty much Jim Dandy replaced by Batman, and lyric changes.
Batman in his Batmobile, heard the Joker wanted to make a deal. Batman, he's on the ball. A big man, he jailed them all. A Batman to the rescue. Swing on, Batman, swing on, Batman. Batman to the rescue. A Batman to the rescue. A Batman to the rescue. Slow down there, Robin. Don't blow your cool.
So what's interesting is that it was written by Lincoln Chase, who had written Jim Dandy and had also written Such a Night.
Yeah.
And so it is part Jim Dandy, but it also incorporates the Batman theme from the...
Which I like.
Yeah.
Lyrically, it incorporates
the
that stuff. And they talk about stuff from the show, so...
Yeah, they talk about Robin and Mr. Freeze, and so,
yeah,
like...
Mr. Freeze.
But it's LaVern Baker, and she says the words Mr. Freeze. Like, this would be comparable to, like, Elvis talking about, like, Spider-Man's villains. Like, talking about the Green Goblin.
That would be excellent.
Could you imagine
my brain
Elvis,
would explode.
Right?
I'd do a spit take. Preferably on somebody.
You're going to hear Elvis's version of the Spider-Man theme.
And he does that slow ending that he normally does, like with Rockahula Baby. And it's the spider. I said spider.
Spider-Man.
And Jordan Ayers in the background. There you go. The Jordan Ayers are like in the background, like thwip, 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 thwip.
Oh, this is great. So, like, this weird tie-in single comes out. And yeah, there are other singles that come out, too, around this time. And, like, so she's, like, overseas and gets abandoned there. And as she put it in one of the articles I read, quote, I hitched with farmers on wagons to Bangkok. I had to slog through rice paddies and water up to my shoulders in some places to get to Bangkok. So by the time the Marines got me to the base, I'd had a relapse. So she had a relapse on her health, spent another 4 months recuperating on her collapsed lung, and had no way of getting in touch with her husband. And so Slappy decides that he's going to declare her officially dead, divorce her, sell their house, and take over her estate.
Mm-hmm.
And so she eventually figures this all out, but she decides like that she had enjoyed being over there in Asia so much, she's just going to spend the next 21 years in the Philippines.
She's like, what do I have left over there?
And serving as the entertainment director of a Marine Corps nightclub at the naval base in Olongapo City in the Philippines.
Right.
And so that's like she just drops out of the
mainstream
American mainstream music industry for 21 years, which is just insane when you actually think about it. Like we can, I guess now would be probably the best time to talk about like the fact that there is no biography about her. And there hasn't been like a movie or a biopic or anything, but like you read this and like her story deserves a movie. Like
it's pretty cinematic if you want to, do something.
Her fight with Congress and with the recording industry to try to, stop the covers of the music. Her massive amount of success, and then her, the fall and going overseas, and then being abandoned overseas, and then being declared dead, and then deciding to spend 21 years. Like, you couldn't make this up. Like, people would like write this off for being a ridiculous story if you like made this as a movie.
I can see it.
And yet it totally happened, and it's crazy.
And I don't buy the argument that nobody knows her. I mean, before La Bamba came out, how many people knew who Richie Valens was?
Yeah.
So I could totally buy them making something like this, which they should.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they should.
Now, could you ever see yourself doing that? Completely, like, moving to...
Yeah, just up and leaving everything.
Yeah. Moving to another country, far off.
I don't know. Like, I don't think I could.
And how advanced do you think the Philippines or wherever she was
no,
at that time?
It was clearly not super advanced. But, like, the only thing that it sounds like that she was able to make work was the fact that she was working for the military, essentially.
Yeah.
Or she was working closely enough to a base where she could live off the military from, the soldiers going to the club.
But over 20 years. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then she did eventually return to the United States in 1988, performed a concert at Madison Square Garden commemorating Atlantic Records' 40th anniversary. And then she decided to come back to the industry. And she recorded a handful of songs. She actually recorded a whole album that was kind of her comeback album. There's a live album that came out. She also, just as an offhand comment, recorded a song called Slow Rollin' Mama for the film Dick Tracy.
We're twisted and we're shaking, but don't you let it break, 'cause I need every ounce of it to bake my cake, 'cause I'm a slow rolling mama, and I need a big long rolling pin to get it ready and just right, woo, for my red hot oven.
I probably heard that.
Yeah, and in 1991 was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And on her last album, she had a song that had been one of my songs of the week that I wanted you to check out. Tennessee Waltz.
I remember that night and that Tennessee waltz. Only you know just how much that I have lost. Oh yes, you know that I lost my baby. That night they were playing that beautiful Tennessee waltz.
Right. Did you highlight this version?
I hadn't on that episode. No.
Okay.
Nope. But it's essentially an homage to Sam Cooke.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, obviously Elvis didn't record it. There's a demo of him, right?
Well, it's a home recording, yeah.
Home recording, yeah. I mean, this is not one of my favorite songs, because Elvis is like, it's really kind of throwaway.
Yeah.
But LaVern swings more, and I can kind of groove with it. Lots of horns and sax. I mean, brass section galore on this. What do you think of this?
I think it's a great homage to Sam. Uses his arrangement, his vocal stylings, and it's so interesting because like we had talked about on that episode, there are so few versions that are like Sam's that take it down that different path. And it's just nice to hear a version from LaVern, and she's in great voice. That whole album and her Live in Hollywood album.
Well, I was dancing with my baby to that Tennessee waltz when an old friend that I happened to see. Oh, yeah.
She would have been about 60-ish.
Yeah, and she was completely on top of it still. And she decided that she was going to continue to tour, and she did for several years. And then she had some unfortunate health problems towards the end of her life. She ended up she had diabetes, and she ended up losing both of her legs.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But she decided to continue touring and still remained in good vocal quality. There's actually videos out there on YouTube of her that you can watch her performing towards the end of her life.
Shake her head, oh, shake her head. Just come on, shake your head, baby. Just shake her head. Shake her head.
And then she died in 1997 of cardiovascular disease at age 67.
And I think I do remember that day because they had announced it online, and I think Entertainment Tonight. I was like, oh crap, she died. I just started getting into her music.
Yeah.
But yeah, around that time, you'd always get these people that you'd listen to from the 50s and 60s and passing them, and you're like, God damn.
Yeah.
But their music will live.
But yeah, so that was the crazy cool life of this amazing fireball of a woman, LaVern Baker.
Yeah.
What other thoughts do you have on her career?
I mean, anytime I listen to her music, I can always groove with it. Her voice is amazing. And she's always constantly on various mixes that I make. She's always on something. But yeah, I think she's deserving of, to be highlighted more. I think a lot of people forget singers from the 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some stand out, but she's one of those names that kind of have disappeared. Even like Sam Cooke and Jackie Wilson, still get recognized, but
yeah.
she's one whose name doesn't really get brought up. I know in that 70s film American Hot Wax,
yeah,
there's a scene of her in there singing Tweedledee,
Mm-hmm.
kind of auditioning for Ellen Freed, because they get that timeline really mixed up in that film.
Yeah.
But there is a scene with her singing Tweedledee with I think her agent for Alan Freed. Sorry. So yeah, you can check her out in there. But yeah, as I said, a lot of people should be more aware of her, but sadly, they're not.
Yeah, and the one thing for me, and I hope that not that we ever have any influence on anything, but I hope that there are young women of color out there that can find their way back to LaVern Baker's music and be inspired by it, because she is. When you look at her contemporaries and you look at the people that she influenced, and you look at artists, everybody talks about, and we talk about all the time, guys like James Brown and Jackie Wilson and Sam Cooke, and some of these great rock and rollers, and Little Richard and Chuck Berry. But how many African American women rock and roll performers can you think of?
Right.
And
I mean, it's a few, but that's about it.
And you have one here that is so good. I wish that there were more voices in rock and roll that had that same pedigree that she had of culture. And I think that rock and roll music would be more. It would be better for it to be more diverse in that way.
Right.
Because I've always been a fan of female rockers as well, no matter what race or background, because I think rock and roll is, definitely a male-dominated genre, and I've always liked female rockers, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight LaVern for this episode, because she's definitely one of the most influential, and certainly was on Elvis, and that comes through in the music.
Yeah, so hopefully listeners who are checking this out will look into her discography.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, that's it for the main topic. So I think we're rolling into Song of the Week.
Let's hit it.
Let's make it like the first chorus all the way through.
Since my baby left me, will I find a new place to dwell? Well, this I got a gal that I love so.
We can go on together with suspicious minds.
I'm all shook up.
Well, that's different. That's a pop song now, LaVern.
All right. I think I have
you
first.
are in first.
Ooh. So I'm going to bring it full circle. We had talked about in Tweedledee, Winfield Scott. I'm picking a Winfield Scott song because this week, my song of the week is I'm a Roustabout.
Build it up, knock it down, hold it square, roll it around, throw it in the air, stick it in the ground. But it's too bad, I can't get mad, 'cause I'm a roustabout.
Oh, interesting pick.
Yes, I'm a Roustabout, which was a song that was cut from the 1964 film Roustabout. Was co-written, actually, by Winfield Scott and Otis Blackwell. So, essentially, Ernst Jorgensen in A Life in Music actually writes, he says, successful commercial and creative songwriters like Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, Don Robertson and Otis Blackwell eventually lost interest in writing for Elvis. Not only were they required to give up 1/3 of their normal songwriter royalties, but often as not, they found their efforts were rejected as movie title after movie title was discarded. Otis Blackwell gamely wrote a title song for Roustabout, only to find it replaced by a giant Bomb and K effort under the same title. So that was the first kind of acknowledgement from an official, like, Sony, well, at the time it would have been RCA BMG source, that there was another Roustabout out there. In 2003, there was a big hubbub after, because 30 number one hits had been this massive success in 2002, and they wanted to do a follow-up album. And so they decided they were going to put out Second to None. And they, in the press release announcing Second to None, talked that there was going to be this newly discovered historical recording on Second to None that they had found, and everyone was speculating, well, what could it be? What could it be? Well, then during Elvis Week, they announced that "I'm a Roustabout" was the song that had been rediscovered. Apparently, in early 2003, Winfield Scott was being interviewed for a story about Elvis and made an offhand remark that he had an acetate in, I think he said, either his attic or his basement, somewhere in his house, of an unreleased Elvis song. And so the same journalist was interviewing Ernst Jorgensen for the story and made an offhand remark to him. And Ernst Jorgensen's ears perked up and went, he must be talking about "I'm a Roustabout," or the other Roustabout song. And so we reached out to Winfield Scott, who gladly allowed him to come over, listen to the song, and they cut a deal to take the acetate, preserve it, and release it on Second to None in 2003, which is where I first heard it. And I remember all the hype leading up to Second to None of, there's this new Elvis recording that's never been heard before.
Before anyone did anything.
First to be censored. First to create fan hysteria. First to have his own mansion. First to have a private jet. First.
Elvis did everything.
Well, it's one for the money.
Elvis, Second to None, the brand new must-have CD. It's the perfect holiday gift and the follow-up to the multi-platinum selling Elvis 30 #1 hits.
I need you.
Featuring 30 more essential Elvis tracks on one CD. Includes 5 more #1 hits not included on Elvis #1s, plus his first hit ever. It's the gift to give and the gift to get. Elvis, Second to None, also includes a recently discovered track that no Elvis fan has ever heard. And as a special bonus, a brand new remix of Rubbernecking by superstar DJ Paul Oakenfold. Put Elvis, Second to None, on your holiday list and hear why the undisputed king of rock and roll always will be second to none. In stores now, just in time for the holidays.
And what's your take on "I'm a Roustabout"? I think it's an excellent song that's sorely not as well known as it should be.
Yeah, this is one of those songs that I was in and out of listening to Elvis, or being up to date with what's coming out.
Right.
But when I did listen to it, I was like, first I thought it was just another version. I thought it was just Roustabout. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I looked closely and I was like, oh, this is the other one. This is the one that they got cut. And yeah, I did like it when I first heard it. I was like, wow, this is kind of neat.
Yeah.
It kind of stands above some of the stuff that's actually on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because that's not one of my favorites. That's not one of my favorite soundtracks besides like Little Egypt. But I do like it. I think it is really good, and I want to listen to it now.
Yeah, no, it was recorded March 3rd, 1964, at the same session as Big Love, Big Heartache, One Track Heart, It's Carnival Time, Carney Town, and There's a Brand New Day on the Horizon, Wheels on My Heels, and Little Egypt. Like, they were just blitzing through these songs that day. And "I'm a Roustabout" was the first version of the title song, and apparently Hal Wallace, the producer, objected to the lyrics. There's the part where Elvis's character within the song is talking about being a roustabout and talking about all the things that their boss or their foreman makes them do. And, stack it up in the rear, better still bring it here. And then he said, I'm going to take it out and stick it in his ear. Well, apparently that was the line that Hal Wallace didn't much care for. And so they decided to commission a different version that had vastly different lyrics, and would end up becoming the final title song.
Orders all day and half the night from the boss. That guy just doesn't want to see 1 minute lost. Stack it up in the rear. Better still bring it here. Want to take it out, stick it in his ear, but it's too wet. I can't get mad, 'cause I'm a roustabout.
But it is surprising that it did actually get recorded and it now is available for us to hear. In fact, one thing that we didn't talk about on our news portions, but I had known it's been at least a couple months that they've been up, but they only just officially announced within the last couple weeks. But the the RCA albums box set that I have and had reviewed on my YouTube channel.
The album one?
The RCA albums collection. The last 3 discs of those, the 50s, 60s, and 70s From the Vaults discs, are now available on streaming, on Spotify, on Google Play, on all those places.
Nice.
Which means that I'm a Roustabout is now available on streaming for people to actually go listen to.
It was on that as well?
Yes, yeah, it's on the CD that's the From the Vaults, the 1960s.
Right. So I guess essentially that whole box set is up for streaming.
Yeah, it is. And essentially the complete masters are essentially up for grabs now, listening-wise. So yeah, definitely, if you want to go revisit I'm a Roustabout, definitely check it out. Elvis is in great shape vocally on this one for a movie song. And that, to me, kind of seemed to be the case for that whole movie. Now, the quality of the songs themselves, songwriting-wise, were not necessarily great, but even on the good ones, like Little Egypt and One Track Heart, he actually does do a pretty solid vocal. It's just a shame that it was wasted on those specific songs. But I'm a Roustabout was definitely a solid one. And it's my song of the week because I really like it. Like, it gets stuck in my head sometimes.
How did you come up with this? Like, did it just start playing when you were listening to some stuff?
No, well, it's just one that had been kind of rolling around in my head for a while.
Oh, okay.
And it is one of those that I do kind of get stuck in my head every once in a while. Like, it's kind of catchy. I've heard some criticism that it is kind of an awkward rhythm, but that's what I like about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good pick. One that probably a lot of listeners might want to check out again.
Absolutely.
So my pick is one that we've talked about in the past. It's Young Dreams, 1958.
Ah, very cool.
King Creole.
Yeah.
Young dreams of love, young dreams of love.
Young dreams.
Young dreams, young dreams.
My heart is filled with young dreams. And I'm longing to share them all with you.
So this is written by Aaron Schroeder and Martin Kalamanoff. So Schroeder we've talked about many times in the past, but Kalamanoff only wrote 2 other songs. First Name Initial by Annette Funicello from the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yep.
And all those beach party bingo movies from the from the early
Beach
60s.
Blanket Bingo. Excuse me.
Whatever. Sorry, I didn't know you were such a fan. With Frankie Avalon. And the other one was Halfway to Heaven by Conway Twitty. So it was recorded on Thursday, January 23rd, 1958 during the King Creole sessions at Radio Recorders Hollywood. Now the song, wow, what a track. I think this is criminally underrated and kind of glossed over as just like a soundtrack filler song. Mm-hmm. But Elvis sounds great on it, like very relaxed vocals, and he seems to be having fun with it. Mm-hmm. He also changes his tempo throughout the song. Like there's slow bits, and then he kind of gets groovy, which is great. Like he starts, like when he's singing "Take My Hand," and then he gets all funky with the rest of it. It's like he's singing a slow ballad, and then he gets all groovy. So I really like that. It's very much in my wheelhouse. A very doo-woppy ballad.
I have young arms that wanna hold you. I have young lips that wanna kiss you. Is you morning, noon, and night. Take my hand. Oh, darling, take my hand.
The Jordanaires are in fine form and perfectly blend in with Elvis. I think had this not been on the soundtrack, this would have made a great single, like a B-side or something. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this?
I absolutely agree. When I was reviewing King Creole for the Blue Suede Reviews movie reviews, this is one that stuck out to me as one that I had not paid attention to before. And the scene in the film, I love him because he looks relaxed. Like, this is where he's got
very relaxed.
He's got his leg kicked up, he's finger snapping along, his hair is
you know the way he looks when he's singing it in the film. That's how I look when I'm recording our show.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is one of those that we only have the master on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, where did you hear it first? Because I heard it probably in the film first, and then I bought the soundtrack shortly after.
Yeah. For me, it was the 50s box set.
Oh, okay. So as you said, there is 8 takes, with 8 being the master, and then sadly none of the other takes have surfaced. But if you check out the King Creole FTD, you can actually hear the producers or the production going, talking about counting down the intro to take 8. So they're just like, whatever the roll call or the number is, and then they go, take 8, and then he starts singing. So you can hear that, but that's all you can hear. You can't hear any of the other takes, unfortunately.
Track Q, take 8.
Young dreams of love, young dreams of love.
Young dreams.
Another cool thing about that FTD is you can hear the original demo of Young Dreams by Jimmy Breedlove.
Yeah.
Breedlove's version isn't as smooth, and he doesn't change up his vocals very much. He just kind of sings it straight. It's interesting listen, though.
Young dreams. My heart is filled with young dreams, and I'm longing to share them all with you.
You must have heard this, no?
I have, and it's very interesting to compare. Like you said, because this is something that's interesting on a lot of those Jimmy Breedlove demos, is that he plays it much more straightforward than Elvis would with any of those songs that he did demos for. And yeah, it's just interesting to think of, like, it's not, so I don't want to like be dismissive about it, because like it is a pretty solid demo, but arrangement wise, like singing it so straightforward, like that's what you could imagine like Pat Boone doing with a song like this.
Right. Yeah, I don't even like this kind of demo. Elvis wouldn't have followed at all. Like he just went off on his own.
Yeah,
it was really it was pretty worthless to do or to give it to Elvis, because he didn't really take anything from it. But it's a guide. It's there.
Yeah, it gives him an idea
of how it might sound. Anyway, as I said, it wasn't released as a single, but came out on the King Creole soundtrack on September 19th, 1958. It was actually released first, though, on the King Creole Volume 2 EP in August of 1958. Another cool thing, as we said, we can watch Elvis, on film singing the song, which is always cool for these, one-off kind of songs.
Mm-hmm.
And a very, very relaxed performance, as you said, at the nightclub, just sitting there and grooving. And that's really all I got to say, because there's no other versions of this.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really count the tribute artist versions, do we? No. For this kind of thing. So, I'll wait for my version to come out soon. That'll come out next year with Justin Gosman as the backup vocalist.
Yeah, I'll do. I'll multi-track myself.
There you go. There'll be 5 of you. That's our show.
Great pick. We made it through a full episode once again. We are back.
I think a very interesting one. I think a lot of people can enjoy the LaVern Baker.
I hope so.
And they'll notice how many tracks are similar between her and Elvis.
Absolutely.
So how can everybody listen to us?
Well, We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on tcbcast.libsyn.com, we're on Podbean, we're on a bunch of different podcasty places. If you want to write into us...
if they want to write in?
Yeah, tcbcast@gmail.com, at TCBcast on Twitter, or just TCBcast on Facebook. We've actually
and we do get feedback.
We do. In fact, we've gotten quite a bit of comments over the last few days since the last episode dropped, and just in general. In fact, there was one fella who commented on our Libsyn. He was the one who recommended that we should review Follow That Dream. He says,
yes.
I really think it's the only film that Elvis actually plays a character. I think it's his best movie. His deadpan delivery is superb. Thanks for the shows, John. So
I do agree with that.
Yeah, thanks for writing in, John. And that's definitely something we are going to take under consideration. In fact, I mentioned on there in my response that we do plan on hitting all of Elvis's movies and TV specials, but we don't have a specific order. But we may well move that up the list, and there is no list. But we'll move it up to sooner rather than later.
Imaginary list.
Yeah, the imaginary list.
What do you think about this?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. But, it's been good, and we will see you all next week.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Batman to the rescue. Batman to the rescue.
It's a hot time in Florida.
It's a rainy night in Georgia.
Good night.
You've been listening to the TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast.
Justin Gosman and Gurdip Ladar have left the building.
Someone must have stomped on his head with those blue suede shoes.
Thank you and good night.